Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by Bet365. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this, our Euro 2024 semifinal preview, is BJ Cunningham and Sam Ingram. Together, we're going to go through both matches, Spain versus France on one side of the bracket. That's Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. British Summer Time. And then Netherlands and England the next day, 3 p.m. on Wednesday. We'll start with Spain and France. I think both of these matchups are styles make fights, a little oil and vinegar. Both feature matchups where one team wants to do something very different from the other. And we could get into a little bit of an arm wrestle in that regard. I don't know which one is more drastic of the difference. I really don't, because whereas like Spain, you think of them, their flair and technical ability, especially in the middle of the park, and their youth, and their vibrancy against this Didier Deschamps French team, which is all about experience and staying in control. I mean, it feels a little bit more drastic, I think, than England versus Netherlands and the styles that they'll play, but we can get into all that as we break them down. To qualify for the odds to qualify for this match, Spain is a slight favorite, -125. France is a even money underdog in the three-way line. Sam is Spain +170, France +210. The draw is +180. Should we just expect more of the same from what we saw in the quarterfinals, where we saw three matches go into extra time, kind of close to the vest? Or are you thinking maybe some fireworks here?
I think more the same with France and England involved, in all honesty. In Spain, Carvajal, Norman, and Morata are out. Alvaro Morata missing the semi after celebrating on the bench against Germany, which just adds to his mistake for me.
Sam, sorry, real quick. that got overturned.
Did it?
The yellow card got overturned, so Morata's going to play.
Oh, well,
yeah. So
that's too bad.
I didn't want you to go through this whole diatribe and then just be like, "Oh yeah, he's actually going to play." So.
That's too bad.
Oh, well, in that case, I'm going to go for Spain win. No, I'm joking.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to let you know it's still alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morata's still alive.
Morata bets are still on. So they're not all suspended. Lindemann and Carvajal are, but Pedri's injured too. However, for me, and I tweeted about it, that Pedri injury early in the game, I think it inadvertently won the game for Spain in the end. Dani Olmo came on and he was excellent, really, really good, as was Fabio Ruiz in the middle, and he's been one of Spain's best players this tournament. And if you rewind the clock back 5 years, Luis de la Fuente Spain actually beat Germany 2-1 in the final of Euro Under-21. 5 players on that team also played against the Germans in the quarterfinal. Unai Simon, Mikel Merino, Fabian Ruiz, Dani Olmo, and Mikel Oyarzabal. Simon is Spain's number one. Olmo and Ruiz were Spain's best players on Friday, and Moreno came on and scored the winning header in a stadium where his dad scored a winning goal for Spain 30 years previous, which is a great story. But I only bring this up because it's clear these players know the manager, they know what he wants from them, and they're performing, and I think they'll continue to do so, and I think they'll provide a real test against France. In the other quarter final, Portugal versus France, in the first half especially, that made watching paint dry look like an extreme sport. We had 0.07 XG to that was Portugal, and France had 0.08 XG. So that was the first game at Euro 2024 to see less than 0.2 XG in the first half. So that was awful. It kind of livened up a bit in the second 45. But yeah, 0-0 all the way through to penalties. France win. France reached the semi-finals of Euro 2024 despite failing to score from any of their 86 non-penalty shots. I'm sure you've heard all the stats peddled out around that. And looking at this game, looking at the prices, I can get my head around why some people would want to bet on Spain. I can understand why some people would think maybe they're favourites in this game, going off performances in this tournament alone. For me, France shouldn't be underdogs. With Spain's absentees and France's know-how in major tournaments in recent years, I'm shocked Spain are favourites. I have France down as value to win in 90 and also to qualify. And I think we've got to remember like what we're betting on here. This isn't a group stage match. It's not the Nations League. It's not an international friendly. This is a major tournament semi-final. the weight of a country is on these players' back. It's the stage of the tournament that France often reaches, often progresses from. So I have France down as value, but I know they've not been great. I've been watching the games. I understand that. And with concerns around France's performances up until this point and a nod towards their ability to shut out teams in terms of clear goal scoring opportunities and them not exactly firing at the other end, I've actually landed on a draw. I looked at the bet builders, the same game parlay. France will draw double chance and under 2.5 goals at evens. I like that, but I wanted a bigger price because I can also see Spain potentially nicking it in a low scoring win. So at a bigger price, you can get draw and under 2.5 goals at 3 point. I realize I'm using decimals, but that draw and under 2.5 goals is at plus 225. And that is where I ended up, and that is what I'll be taking in this first semi-final.
Yeah, use decimals. It's good to know for our American listeners what those mean. I actually kind of like Spain here because I think that if this match stays on a path, the path that France wants it to go down, it's a coin flip, right? Like it's a 0-0 or 1-1 drab game where it comes down to extra time or penalties or just someone getting lucky or maybe a referee decision, all that. But if it goes down the path that Spain wants it, it gets a little more chaotic. And I would trust this Spanish side, even if they aren't as experienced as all these, really well drilled Deschamps players for Les Bleus. Like I trust Spain if this thing goes off kilter a bit. So I'm gonna bet Spain here. I think the inside 90 too, like because I that bet would correlate to them winning inside 90. I just don't see how it would benefit them, getting into extra time against a French side that's just so composed and knows exactly how to get through these nervy moments. So if you think about the paths that this match can walk down, I think that if you think it's going to go the way that France wants it, it turns it into a coin flip. And if you think it goes the way Spain wants it, you'd give them a pretty significant edge if there are more chances at both sides. That's easier said than done against this French side, which we have this argument all the time, on this podcast about if there's any, what would you rather see? I love these 0-0s and these boring matches. They crack me up. I think it is what it's all about. Like these tournaments is they spit out these games that are just so terrible. Because if you just said, that if you change the teams from Portugal, France to Stoke City versus, whoever, Wolverhampton, nobody would be watching that match, but the entire world got to suffer through it, and that's beautiful stuff to me, BJ. So I like Spain here. I think this one gets maybe a little kookier than what we've seen with these French matches so far.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree, Michael. I'm with Sam on this. I like France. I think that it's kind of crazy that they are an underdog here to Spain because of the two suspensions that Spain has, and quite frankly, we haven't really seen a match at this tournament where France can play in their best possible state. And what I mean by that is France is so good at just sitting deep and then just killing you in transition. But pretty much every team in this tournament, outside of maybe Portugal, has essentially, and even Portugal for that matter, didn't really commit too many guys forward, is they've basically handed the ball to France and said, hey, you guys try to break us down because we know if you get in transition, you're going to kill us. And we're going to do everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen and Mbappe doesn't hurt us. With Spain, the way that they play and the way that they're most successful playing is by obviously controlling possession, by also committing a lot of guys forward in attack. They typically build out in a 2-3-5 and they push those three up pretty far and they leave those two guys on an island and they'll just, they accept that they might get beat in transition. So if Spain has two options here, if they can either play the way they normally do, which is push all those guys forward and also counter press and try to win the ball off of France, or they can dial it back a little bit. They can play a little bit more passively and they can play a little bit more like what we saw after they went ahead against Germany, because it was not good defensively from Spain. And you see that Spain, yes, they're really good at controlling possession, but they're a terrible box defending team. They have no elite guys in there to block shots, win aerial duels, especially against a team like France. So against Germany, France allowed 45 penalty box touches. and 2.1 expected goals, and 9 crosses were completed in their penalty areas. For those out there, 2 to 3 crosses completed in the penalty area is like a good day for most offenses. 9 is absurd. So I think Spain is kind of stuck in between two different things. I don't think there's been a team in this tournament that has really punished them in transition. And I know there's all this made up about Spain hasn't scored a goal from open play because they've had a couple own goals, but they've obviously underperformed. We've been through that before. But also, their defense has been the best defense in this tournament. Now that England has let up a couple goals. Through their 5 matches, they've allowed 3.7 non-penalty expected goals. And even though they haven't scored a goal from open play, nobody scored a goal against them from open play. So it's kind of pick your poison type of thing. I do tend to lean more with Sam that this match does become more nil-nilly or maybe 1-1. But even if we're just going on pure underlying numbers, since September of 2021, France has a plus 1.34 expected goal differential per 90. Spain is at plus 1.24. And I think it's a fair statement to say that France is a more talented team than Spain overall, collectively as a squad. So I like France to advance. You can find a plus 110 out there. And honestly, I would bet France at plus 275 to win the Euros because I do believe they're going to be favored over both England or Netherlands, whoever gets to the final. So France to qualify at plus 110, and then also them to win the Euros at plus 275 for me.
Okay, so that's Tuesday. On to Wednesday, where Sam's England takes on the Netherlands. And once again, two contrasting kind of styles. The way these two teams started the tournament was kind of similar, but Netherlands has sort of grown into it, albeit against Romania and Turkey. So, but then again, England's played Slovakia and Switzerland in their knockout games. But you'd expect this to be a matchup like a styles make fights where people would think the Netherlands want to go. They want to put the ball on the carpet and knock it around, play with a little bit more oomph and press, a little more energy, make it frenetic. Whereas England will want to play, as they've been doing this entire tournament, and just kill the game as soon as the game starts and get it to the deep end of the pool. Nonetheless, England is a favorite here to advance. Roughly the same odds, like very similar odds in both matches. On the three-way line, England's plus 155, the Netherlands plus 220. The draw is sitting at a pretty short price of plus 187. And to qualify, England's minus 138. Netherlands a underdog at plus 110. I don't know if the pressure's still on England anymore, Sam, actually. Like, I feel like the pressure was kind of lifted with that win. We were talking about how you can almost see it when they're playing. Like, you can see the weight of England on their shoulders with the way they play too. Maybe it's just the style they play makes it look that way. I don't know. But then there's all this talk afterwards. Everything gets Zapruder filmed with England. It's one of the craziest media markets in all sports. I'm reading for some reason a rabbit hole of their new social psychology to taking penalties, where each penalty taker also has a buddy that walks that particular kicker to the spot. And I'm losing my mind a bit here, but that is what England is all about with these teams. Like, every moment of every game gets so blown up. But I do think that getting to the semifinals, like, that kind of stuff goes away. Like, you made it to the semifinals. This is an achievement rather than a disappointment. No matter how you got here, you got to a semifinal. I feel like we're going to see them. I'm sound crazy for saying it, but I feel like it's going to be a more loose, free flowing, dare I say, 1970s Netherlands kind of England performance here, where the ball's going to be pinged around a bit. That makes me go to the over. I think plus 160 on over 2.5 with the attacking talent on display here. And I'm crazy, right? Like, this game's just going to be 0-0.
Yeah, you've really buttered me up there, Michael, but gonna have to disagree with you. I think we're probably gonna get something similar to the quarterfinal against Switzerland. Let me quickly read out some numbers. I want you to tell me where they're from. 0.47, 1.15, 0.8, 0.87, and 0.52. Any takers?
I'm gonna guess that's England's expected goals from non-penalty in each successive match.
Expected goals, spot on. So the underlying data and what I'm seeing with these eyes is telling me that England will not be a bigger nation, or they will really struggle to. which the Netherlands fits into, unless it's a 1-0 win and we hang on for dear life. Failing that, our other legitimate route to progressing is via a penalty shootout. And listen, lads, like if we win Euro 2024 after winning 3 penalty shootouts on the bounce, that's fine. I'll still be on some kind of bender next Tuesday and I won't be bothered in the slightest, but it's not sustainable. That's not how you usually win a major tournament. And I know there are exceptions, Portugal in 2016, but it is an underwhelmingly dangerous game to play. England still haven't shown enough quality for me in their 5 fixtures to this point to suggest that they'll overcome a Spain or a France. They might have the beating of the Netherlands, but I think it's going to be really tight. They're lucky to be in the semis, and the draw has been kind to us again, but they're there. So that is something to, be positive with. And I'll tell you one thing, and I just mentioned it on the Bet Expert podcast. So there's a danger of me repeating myself here, but the key to England's chances of winning, I think, is Luke Shaw's fitness at left back. We've missed him so much. There is no hesitation whatsoever for him to get up and get round the fullback to overlap the left winger. And it makes just such a huge difference. You can see it visually. It's clear, like in terms of balance to this side in forward areas, if he can start the semi-final, then we can cause Netherlands some real problems on that side. Once he gets up the pitch, automatically it brings up 3, 4, 5 bodies into the box, and we can get our midfielders closer to Kane, who is really struggling up there on his own, whilst Bukayo Saka can continue to do what he's doing over on the right wing. So Luke Shaw is just key for me, but he's not 100%, so I don't know if he can start. If he's lining up at left back on Wednesday evening, Wednesday evening UK time, I think we might win the game. We might win it in 90 minutes, but we need him to start. And I also thought I need to give Cole Palmer a shout out. I thought he was excellent. His skill set of getting on the ball in whatever area of the pitch and successfully carrying the ball upfield gives this team such a lift on the pitch. You can see it, like it's visible, it's infectious. As a fan, I want everything to run through him when he's on the pitch. And the players will be thinking exactly the same. Give the ball to Cole Palmer and we can get up the pitch as a unit and relieve pressure. So I want him starting. I think Phil Foden then therefore would have to be benched. If you're going to start Foden, Gareth, then Cole Palmer has to get on the pitch earlier. We need that on the pitch when we're under the cosh, and we also need him on the pitch to create opportunities at the right end. And if it's not Cole Palmer, it has to be someone else. We are missing that, and we need that. Main positive from the quarterfinals, it has to be the penalties. As an Englishman, we're not used to this kind of efficiency from the penalty spot. I can assure you that. Pickford in there, obviously, as an Everton fan, Michael, you'll know, really safe pair of hands. I don't want to jinx anything, but England, I think, are quite good at penalties now, which I didn't think I'd be saying in my lifetime. I could go on all day anyway, but I'll bring it back to today's bet. For the semi-final, I've landed on exactly the same selection that I put forward in the previous game. Draw and under 2.5 goals in a bet builder. That's also plus 225. Meaning that I'll just need one of these bets to land for profit in the semis, which I think might be a good way to approach the final four if you think they'll naturally be tight and cagey. I wouldn't be surprised if we only see 1 or 2 more goals in this competition. I can't see a game spiraling into a 2-2 or a 3-2 in the final 3 games. I could be wrong, but I'm happy to bet on a low scoring draw or win here. Historically, that is how the semi-finals go. And lastly, for me, it's hard to envisage a game going any other way with this version of the England national side involved. Southgate's men create low margin fixtures with little to shout about in either box. We shouldn't see 3 or more goals in this game. The goal line is set at over and under 2.0. So here's hoping for either a 0-0 or a 1-1.
Yeah, like I said, I think I like the over here a bit. I think that we're gonna see it just even if it's the changes you mentioned, right? Luke Shaw and Cole Palmer starting, that helps my bet. I think the other bet I'm a couple other bets I want to just throw out there that I'm considering and I think I'm gonna play is I like Virgil van Dijk as an anytime goal scorer at 14-1. I think that these are the kind of matches where he gets up and obviously he's gonna be very dangerous in the box, and I like the deliveries from set pieces from the Netherlands have just been really, really dangerous. So I like Van Dijk at 14-1. I think he can cause some problems in the mixer, as they say. And also a goal in the first 10 minutes of an England match. How about that? Plus 450, I think, is also worth a little bit of a sprinkle as well. Because I do think that they're, I don't know, maybe it's a hunch, BJ, but I feel like this is the time where England actually puts the ball on the floor and maybe plays a little bit. And it's not just passing Trippier to Stones to Gahey or Konsa, whoever's in. But I've been wrong plenty of times.
I think it just depends on how Netherlands sets up, right? Like I think teams have shown throughout this tournament that if you just sit off England and you deny space through the middle, you can be pretty successful. So I wouldn't see why Netherlands wouldn't do the same, although, Coleman has surprised me a few times before. But I generally think that this Netherlands team is set up so horribly tactically, but they have a lot of individual quality that makes up for a lot of it. And how I kind of describe, Netherlands and how they play is Coleman will have them set up so bad for like the first 35, maybe 45 minutes. And then you'll just see him make like the weirdest sub ever. And you're like, wow, why did he just take Veerman off and bring on Simone's? And then, of course, at halftime against Turkey, it was just, all right, nothing's working. Let's bring Weghorst on and just hoofballs up to him. And let's just hope for the best. And guess what? It works. So, I mean, you can't really fault the guy, right? But in the end, I mean, Netherlands created 0.7 expected goals. The 2 goals they scored, one obviously off a set piece. And the other one, I mean, against England, that ball will never, ever get to the back post because England's going to be playing a very low line. So I'll be honest, I don't have any value from a projection standpoint. I have England at plus 153, Netherlands at plus 233, the draw at plus 229, and the total at 2.03. So, and also England to advance at minus 121. So there's just really no value for me on here. And I think it really comes down to the Netherlands because, again, individual quality has shined out. They've had a couple transition. They basically used their transition moments with the quality they have to create a lot of these chances. But this is now going to be a very different type of test. And if you look, like a similar type of match, they played France in the group stage and they did virtually nothing for the entire match. And France really should have scored like 2 or 3 times. And that was France without Mbappe. In that match, Netherlands just created 0.6 expected goals. I was potentially looking at a first half 0-0 here, but that's like plus 120 right now, which is a really, really low price to pay. I don't really want to pay that. Although England matches this tournament have featured in the first half 0.67 expected goals per 45 minutes, so it's just been completely dead games all tournament long. So instead, I'm going to go to the props market because I can't just sit out a semifinal, right? I got to have something on this. So 2 props I came up with: Declan Rice over 2.5 tackles at plus 125. If the Netherlands is going to be successful, it's mainly going to be because of transition attacks. And who is the guy that's stopping most of those for England? It's Declan Rice right now. He's gone over 2.5 tackles in all but one of his matches. The one, he had 2 tackles against Serbia. Where was the ball going for Serbia? It was just going out wide away from where he was, and they were just sending in crosses. So and you've seen throughout this tournament as well, the Netherlands is a team that wants to attack the middle with Depay, Simone's. That is where a lot of their attacks go. And so Rice has been the one that's been mopping up a lot of those. 15 tackles in 5 matches so far this tournament. So I like that price at plus 125. And Reinders, midfielder for Netherlands, to have a shot in this match at minus 175. I know it's a little bit juicy, but if England's to go ahead, or even if England, typically how they play out of possession, as we've seen throughout this tournament, is that they will just sit in a defensive block and they won't really press you with too much onus unless it's, in your own final third. Well, Reinders has been the guy now that Schouten is playing the more defensive holding midfielder type role. Reinders has been given more freedom to go forward, and he's the one that's taking a lot of those shots kind of from outside the box there. So if England's going to play a low line and they're going to play very passive defensively, those shots in and around the box when Netherlands does get it inside England's final third are going to be there. And Reinders is going to be the one that's coming out to get a lot of those shots. 44% of the shots that England has conceded so far this tournament have came from outside the box. They've only allowed, I think, 1 shot inside the 6-yard box. So, and England's average shot distance allowed is 19.7 yards. So generally, if the shots are going to be coming from outside the box type of area, I like a box crashing advancing number 8 to get that shot. Reinders has 10 shots so far for Netherlands this tournament. That's 3rd most on the team. And out of the 11 matches that he's played throughout Euro qualifiers and in the Euros,
he's gotten a shot in 8 of those 11 matches, and the 3 ones that he didn't get a shot against Turkey. He came off after 60 minutes. He didn't get a shot against their second meeting against France. And then another one, I think it was against Greece or Ireland. No, excuse me, Ireland. He only played for 45 minutes. So I generally think the way that this match sets up and where Netherlands is going to get most of their chances, honestly, they're not going to be inside the box. It's going to be in and around it. I like Reinders at -175 to just get one shot in this match.
Okay. Yeah, as you were going through that, the one thing that kind of occurred to me is I feel like the Netherlands have played almost every kind of opponent you can play at an international tournament at this point, whereas England's played just like a better version of the same opponent over and over and over again. Yeah, it's been very strange, but hey, they're here. They're in the semifinals.
They are.
Football is two matches.
By the
away
way,
from
if
finally coming home.
it's France and England in the final, my God, that match
Love
is
it.
so bad.
Love it.
Worst final ever.
No,
It will
great.
be.
This Trafalgar Part 2. All right, let's get to best bets before we get into before I take this thing truly off the rails into Horatio Nelson stuff. We'll start with you, BJ.
France to advance at +110 against Spain. I really don't think France should be an underdog in this match. You know, the way this match sets up for Spain, where they play at their best is pushing a lot of guys inside the final third and counter-pressing when they lose the ball. Well, pushing a lot of guys inside the final third and counter-pressing against a team like France, who's the best transition team in the world, is a very, very dangerous game to play. So that means Spain is probably going to have to play a different style, one you saw against Germany, where they're playing more passively and giving the ball to France and allowing them to try and break them down. But Spain playing very defensive is not a good thing. Once they went ahead against Germany, they conceded 45 penalty box and touches in total for the match. 9 crosses were completed in their penalty area, and then Germany ended up creating over 2 expected goals. So even though France hasn't been very good offensively during this tournament, they still have created over 8 non-penalty expected goals. And France is also the best defensive team left in this tournament, only allowed 3.7 non-penalty expected goals in their 5 matches. They're incredibly talented and good, solid defensive side that's going to make it very difficult for Spain to score on them. So I think France should be a favorite here to get to the final. So I like them to advance at +110.
Okay, I'm going to go over 2.5 goals in the Netherlands and England. We just haven't seen England play a team like this yet. A team that has both individual quality and some kind of tactical know-how and bravery to put the ball down and try to engage England. Most teams have sat back and been kind of willing combatants in playing these 0-0s, 1-1s against England. I have a feeling that the Netherlands won't do that. And I do think we're going to see a little bit of a let your hair down moment from England here. They reached the semifinals. Had they lost in the quarterfinals to Switzerland, this tournament would have been an unmitigated disaster. It's now a success. They make it to another major international semifinal under Gareth Southgate. So no matter how they got here, they got here. I think they'll be able to breathe easier. I think we've seen some signs from this team with a few tactical changes, a few personnel changes that could lead to some more gumption going forward. I think this thing is a little more back and forth than the odds suggest, which they suggest it's not going to be back and forth at all. So I like the over 2.5, 3 goals at +162 in this one. Sam, I know you're going to disagree with me though.
Yep, staying in the same game, I'm going for draw and under 2.5 goals at +225. Since 1998, in both the World Cup and the Euros, 10 out of 26 semi-final matches have been drawn. Applying a 1-unit stake to each of those games would have seen a 25.3% ROI. So backing draws in semi-finals might be the way to go. It's another game I think will be really tight. We went through England's expected goals this tournament. Not good. 4 or 5 matches have fallen below that 1.0 XG line. I expect more of the same. The Netherlands look decent going forward. I agree with Michael, but I'm confident England's backline will rebuff the majority of their advances. In the end, I'm expecting a low margin game, most likely 0-0 or 1-1, and at +225. It's not too bad.
Great. So that'll do it for the semifinals. We'll be back after these 2 matches to preview the final and then take a break and get ready for the Premier League. But thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsors, Bet365 and our producer, Noah. For BJ and Sam, I'm Michael. This has been Wondergoal.